Hi, I'm Kevin Cummings. At Investors Bank, we believe in helping our local neighborhoods and improving the lives of all we serve. We're a different bank that makes a difference for our employees, clients, and communities. That's why we're proud to support public television and the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Investors Bank, the New Jersey Education Association, Verizon, QualCare Inc., a managed care company administering health plans that care about your health care, Johnson & Johnson, ShopRite Supermarkets, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com, covering all New Jersey has to offer, and by New Jersey Family Magazine and njfamily.com.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No. People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. We are back with our good friend, or she is back with us, Michele Siekerka, President and Chief Executive Officer of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Good to have you back with us.
Thanks, Steve.
We're doing this in early summer 2016, so I'll be seeing for a while. I want to make sure we cover some ground on important issues. What would you say the number one business issue is in the state right now?
Well, I call it the legislative trifecta, so it's three that makes one, sorry, because each one of them is significantly important.
Go.
Constitutional amendment to fund the pension as a super priority over every other need in the state of New Jersey.
Pensions.
The public employee pension, yeah. Unfortunately, I think we're going to see that on the ballot in November. That is not good for New Jersey's economy.
Why?
Well,
we'll go to the other two in a second, but why?
Absolutely. It is going to have a devastating impact on the economy because there's only two ways we are going to be able to ensure that we can cover a $3.5 billion additional cost to our operating budget. Number one, we're either going to cut programs, which we don't do in the state of New Jersey, and we're challenged right now in our budget cycle to do that, right? Number two, it means we raise revenue. When we raise revenue, that means, number one, we go to the business community to do it. Corporate business tax, millionaire's tax, which is not a millionaire's tax, it's a tax on small business, S-corps. And then that's not enough. That only raises about $1 billion if we're lucky. So then we have to go to the consumer, increased taxes on our goods and services. At the end, increased income tax. Everyone's going to pay for this one.
But devil's advocate, Michele, what do you say to those who argue that historically the state has not kept up the commitments that it made to pay into the public employee pension fund, and the only way to guarantee that the state does what it's supposed to do is to guarantee it in the Constitution?
Well, I say I agree that we have an obligation and that we all own the obligation. We absolutely do.
And Democratic and Republican governors have failed for years.
Absolutely.
This governor has done more than virtually all the others together in the last many years, but we're way behind.
Yeah, but the problem is the taxpayers have already paid. They've done their share as well, Steve. It's our policymakers that haven't been fair in this process. And as you said, for decades, Republicans, Democrats aside, okay, we need to fund that obligation. However, doing it through a constitutional amendment, making it a super priority over public safety, health, welfare, education, that's not the answer. Wrong answer to the problem.
The other two.
So second, $15 minimum wage.
What's wrong with that?
So, it sounds good.
It's an expensive state.
Well-intentioned. However, okay, $15 minimum wage means that we are going to artificially inflate the value of a market rate job. Entry-level position is meant to be just that, an entry point to your career. You start there, workforce development steps in, you build up your skills, you get more education, you stay on the job, and you rise the ladder. Okay? When you artificially inflate the entry-level position, an $8.38 job today, when you artificially inflate that by 80%, you reset every single position in the state of New Jersey. How? So let's talk about when you take the person at the counter who's making $8.38, right? Now you take the legal secretary in the law firm who's been there for 5 years, making $15 an hour. She says, time out. My 19-year-old who's working at the Burger King is getting $15 an hour to take orders. I'm handling important legal documents, okay? I want my 80% increase as well. So you have to reset the value of every single position with that.
What's that do to business?
Well, it has a significant impact on business because it's the same balance sheet, just like we talked about with the pension a minute ago. The only way you make up an increased cost of doing business is one of two ways. One, you cut expenses. That means you cut jobs or you cut hours, or you cut benefits, okay? Number two, or you raise the price of your product and service. And that's no good for the consumer because now that burger is going to go up as well.
Real quick before I let you go on this, a whole range of folks who support the $15 an hour minimum wage have said that many in the business community had argued that they've made the same argument every time, and it hasn't held true, you say.
Well, what I say is we weren't talking about an 80% increase. And even though it's going to be phased in over 5 years.
I thought it was $10 first and then moving up
Sure.
to 15 over time.
Yeah, absolutely. But over 5 years to go that significant, every year that is more of an increase than we have had before. Number one. Number two, we already did this just 2.5 years ago. Okay, we're only 2 years into rebounding from an increase. Now,
in the minimum wage.
The minimum wage. You know, now I would suggest, okay, you know what, the sky didn't fall on this last round, but guess what? Our policymakers then didn't get it right either. So why don't we all go back on a blank piece of paper and say, what do we really need to do? But we're not invited to that discussion. We're not invited to the discussion of what should the wage be? How do you consider how benefits play into that? Many of the positions between $8.38 and $15 offer benefits, which means that those aren't really positions that are valued at that minimum wage. They're valued at something higher because of the value of those benefits attached to it.
What's the third piece?
Third piece, paid sick leave. Again, now we've been successful fending off paid sick leave thus far.
Explain to folks what that is. So say someone is sick. The state would mandate that the employer pay for that person while he or she was sick, pay for their time.
Again, sounds good, well-intentioned.
It does.
Absolutely.
You don't want people who are sick coming to work.
I absolutely
because they feel like they're not going to get paid.
No, correct, absolutely. However, first of all, New Jersey businesses today, 70% provide some form of paid sick leave, 90%
voluntarily.
90% provide some type of paid time off, which is that more flexible policy. So if you're healthy in a year, then you get to take more vacation time, okay? But the important aspect of this is government wants to put everybody in a box. They want to treat everybody the same on how you give this particular benefit to your employees. Think about this, Steve. The corner pizzeria, the 1,000-employee call center, the largest utility in the state of New Jersey. 3 very different types of employment. How do you tell them all in the same way, give this benefit in the same manner? It doesn't work. You know, we need to allow employers to work directly with their employees on how things work for their particular place of employment. They know best. They deal with their employees every day.
So you're saying government shouldn't mandate this?
Government shouldn't step into this relationship. Okay? If government wants to incentivize good behavior for people to do more, government shouldn't be stepping in, though, and telling businesses how to do this. And businesses that are already doing it should be given credit for what they're doing and not being told, you change your business model because we told you you have to do it this way. Their business model is working just fine right now.
Before I let you out of here, by the way, we have a collaboration, a relationship with the BIA, Business Industry Association, a cross-promotional relationship. I've done a lot of seminars, unpaid seminars, just to be clear, but a lot of for-your folks, leadership, communication, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to be clear on something. So folks knows what BIA, they know what BIA is. Go ahead.
Yes. Sure. New Jersey Business and Industry Association, we represent 20,000 businesses across the state of New Jersey. That comprises 1.2 million jobs in the state of New Jersey.
And you also have a publication called?
New Jersey Business.
It's a terrific publication. Also, check it out online as well. Michele Siekerka is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Check out their site, find out what they're thinking, but also, more importantly, find out about these issues and decide for yourself where you stand. Thanks so much, Michele.
Thanks so much, Steve.
We'll be right back, right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by our good friend, Dr. Jeffrey R. Boscamp. He's got a detailed title. He's Vice President, Chief Academic Officer, Hackensack University Medical Center, and Physician-in-Chief, Joseph N. Sanzari Children's Hospital. Good to see you, Jeff.
Great to see you again, Steve. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've also want to make everyone clear that I've talked about Hackensack before. I've done some physician leadership coaching and communication coaching up there as well, so I know a little bit about your operation. The medical school that's happening, Hackensack, Seton Hall, When's it happening? Why is it so important?
Well, it's already started happening, and fantastic project. I mean, we're all just energized and excited by it. I think the whole state is. Everybody's gotten really behind this new effort. First private medical school in New Jersey, a combination of two incredibly strong institutions, Seton University, Hackensack University Medical Center, great education, superb clinical care at Hackensack, coming together to put this school together in an incredibly innovative way. And I know we've talked about it before in the past.
Talked about it offline a lot.
Yeah, and there are tremendous opportunities here to teach in ways that have never been taught before.
Break that down a little bit, Doctor. When we have talked offline, one of the big subjects is communication.
Yes.
And doctor-patient, teaching physicians or future physicians a new way, a different way of doing what they do. Make that clear.
Yeah, I mean, we have an opportunity here with a brand new medical school to do things in a completely different way.
For example?
So, for instance, I mean, passively sitting in a lecture for an hour, forget it. We're not doing that. We're going to have students communicate with each other, have faculty that is not the so-called sage on the stage. We're going to have guides by the side. Let the students teach each other. Learn to communicate. Learn to teach.
Why? Why does that matter? How does that change anything about how care is delivered?
It changes everything because it's how you learn. What's happening is that the educational material you learn in medical school, by the time you're 5 years out, half of it's gone. So that's not the point. The point is to teach people how to be active learners, how to continue to learn, not just when they're students, but when they're residents, when they're physicians out in practice. You got to continue that learning process. We're going to give people the skills to be able to pick that up themselves and to be able to teach. Those students will become residents, will become attending. They're going to be then teaching. So the process just continues. And there just hasn't been an emphasis on that. When you sit in a lecture and you're just told what you need to memorize, that's not going to be lifelong learning. It's not going to create the kind of learning that we want. So we have an opportunity with a brand new school, a complete tabula rasa, blank slate, to say, let's do it differently. Let's engage the students with clinical material that's relevant to what they're going to do from day one. There used to be this 2+2 model, so that 2 years you'd sit in a lecture hall, you'd memorize cycles, you'd get all this basis, and then the great day would arrive, you could actually see a patient. We're going to have students involved as navigators for patients, for doing things, seeing cases, understanding why they're learning something. That's what sticks.
That's different.
It is different.
But I'm curious about something. You've been involved in medical education for a long time. You've seen it evolve. Why is it coming to this now?
I think, first of all, there's an explosion of knowledge. And we have an opportunity with the doctor shortage. And for us, for Seton Hall and Hackensack, in New Jersey, we're facing a 2,500 physician shortage by the year 2025. We know that if you train physicians in a state, they're going to likely stay in that state.
So we won't lose them.
That's right, because there's been a drain from New Jersey. We've actually lost a lot of really great students and residents that have trained elsewhere, and then they tend to stay in that place. We need them here. We need the great brains and minds to take care of our patients here in the state.
When is the school open?
Well, we got a lot of work to do. There's this thing called the LCME, which is the Liaison Committee on Medical Education. They're the ones that give us the green flag to go start the school. So between now and the end of the year, we've got a lot of work to do to get accredited. We just brought in our first dean, our founding dean, Bonnie Stanton, is a great leader, a great academic who's giving us the direction we need now to go down this road. First class, everything goes well, be sitting at the Seton Hall Hackensack School of Medicine, fall of 2018.
It's exciting for you, isn't it?
It's very exciting. I mean, it's exciting for the whole organization because, Hackensack gives incredibly excellent care. But to do that elevation to the next level, to be a true academic medical center, to have your own residents, to have your own students, that is game-changing for all of us.
But Jeff, before I let you out of here, I'm curious, will it take a different kind of person to be a physician of tomorrow, or will you just take the same kind of people and teach them differently?
No, I think it's going to be a different person, and how we select those people is going to be.
So the criteria is different.
The criteria is going to be different.
Dare I use the term? Sorry for interrupting. Emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. There's
a lot
of discussion of that. Is how what's happening now. What we intend to do is you don't just write an essay and look at your MCAT scores and your college GPA and say that person's here, that person's here. multiple mini interviews. Don't know if you've heard the process. Bang, 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 meeting multiple people. See how you think. See if you're empathetic. See if you could relate to patients. Can you communicate in a reasonable way? Those are going to be the skills that are going to be valued. The mission of this school is going to be to deliver care to disadvantaged and disenfranchised people, and we want to create people and doctors in that setting that will do that, will go out there and understand what
Real
people
quick,
need.
before I let you out of here, we know a little bit about the folks up at Bergen Community College. They just opened up a new health center. Tell us about it real quick.
Yeah, so their health professions teaching center is their first new building in quite some time. They're very excited about it. We at Hackensack, a lot of our employees get trained there. A lot of our employees come from there. So they're turning out a lot of people in different health professions that are able to help meet the need of the community. And this new teaching center, which is beautiful, will really help them become a center. It's going to be incredible.
The medical profession continues to change. The physicians of tomorrow, and there is a shortage, is evolving, and Dr. Jeffrey Boscamp is on the cutting edge of that effort. Dr. Jeffrey Boscamp, Vice President, Chief Academic Officer, Hackensack University Medical Center, and Physician-in-Chief, Joseph M. Sanzari Children's Hospital. Good to see you, buddy.
Great to see you, Steve.
Stay there. We'll be right back, right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're here with Dr. Ali Houshmand from Rowan University, one of the honorees, one of the epic honorees here at the New Jersey Nurses Association. Doctor, talk to us about Rowan and its commitment to nursing.
Well, our commitment to education is profound and is very important, and specifically in the area of life sciences and health sciences because of Obamacare, the need for nurse educators, nurse practitioners, primary care physicians is of paramount importance. The prediction or the forecast is by year 2020, the state of New Jersey needs 3,000 additional physicians, 2,000 of which should be primary care physicians. And through the School of Osteopathic Medicine, which was transferred from UMDNJ to Rowan, we are training a large number of them. In fact, we have just gotten permission to increase our class size from 162 to 208 and eventually going to 300. And the purpose being that most of these people that we train, they tend to stay in New Jersey and practice in New Jersey.
So what impact do you think that ultimately has long-term on healthcare in the state?
Well, it has a profound impact because it really costs a massive amount of money for the state to educate doctors and nurses. And when they leave the state, it's to our detriment. And the fact that we train them in here and we keep them in here to practice is very, very important. And that's why I think if you look at, for example, other schools, in the schools that provide doctors or train doctors, I think 2 out of every 3 that we train in here leave the state at a massive cost to the state because the state subsidizes it.
The brain drain.
Of course, and for all sorts of reasons. But the primary care physicians are very, very important for the state, and this is really where we are good at because most of the people who go through the osteopathic medical school, they tend to become primary care physicians, about 65% or so, and most of them are staying in the state of New Jersey.
And the role of nursing bigger than ever.
Absolutely, between the two of them, because there is no way we can respond to additional 20 million people who have registered to be served by the current.
Not enough physicians.
Absolutely not, and especially in the state of New Jersey, because the average age of the current practicing physician is amongst the highest in the nation. I think we are probably one of the oldest in terms of the average age of the practicing physician. When they retire, how are we going to replace them? That's why the forecast says by year 2020 we are short by 3,000 physicians.
So the role of higher education in all this?
Huge. That's our responsibility to train the future workforce for the state in the area where the needs are. And that's really what I believe, not only the public institutions and private institutions, we have to always ask or measure the pulse of the state and the country and see who do they need so that we can train them rather than training the people that the state doesn't need or the country doesn't need or the economy doesn't need. So it's very, very important that this connectivity exists between who we produce and who they employ.
We're here at the New Jersey Nurses Association. I'm Steve Adubato. The program has just started. That's why we're talking down a little bit, keeping our voices down. We're here with one of the honorees, the epic honorees, Dr. Ann Prisco, who is president of Felician University, and you have a terrific nursing program, don't you?
Yes, we do, and we're very proud of it. And if I could brag a moment, we just found out that 100% of our students pass their NCLEX, so we have a 100% pass rate, which is pretty phenomenal.
You used an acronym there. Let's talk about that. That's 100% pass rate on the National Council of Licensure Examination. That's a big deal. Why?
Yes, well, that exam is the exam that tests the student's ability to function properly in a hospital or care setting. And so for all of our students who are taking the exam, to pass it is quite an honor, and the hard work of the faculty and the students. Rates in the 90s, which we typically would get, will always be within the top 10 in the state. So to hit 100% is really quite an accomplishment.
Nursing has changed dramatically over the years, so nursing schools have had to evolve. Talk about that.
Well, certainly we see the credentialization of nursing as the skills that they're required to have are higher level skills, more education is needed. So the RN started with a 2-year program. Now it's an RN to BSN, which is 4 years. We have about 8 different master's level programs plus 2 doctorates in nursing now.
The future of nursing. A lot of nurses are going into all kinds of professions. There are nurses that are presidents of hospitals or executive level positions. They're leaders at the core, are they not?
Absolutely, but they're leaders who also care, right? They care about that one-on-one and that attachment to the individual. So that's why at the doctoral level, you'll see we have a doctorate in nursing practice for those who want to continue to be in the hospitals or in the care centers, and we also have a doctorate in nursing leadership for those who prefer to go into more of a healthcare administration role.
Affordable Care Act has been a game changer.
It has, in terms of the way we're going to have to work together. So one of the new courses we're developing is around interprofessional education.
What does that mean?
It means that now a nurse is not going to think of working in a silo with a doctor, with a physical therapist, with an occupational therapist. We really need to have them all working together to care for a patient.
Again, we're at the New Jersey Nurses Association. This is the EPIC Awards, and Dr. Ann Prisco from Felician University, one of the EPIC honorees. Let me ask you this, Ann. We've talked about this over the years, but nurses are extraordinary people, and you've interacted with them at the university, and we all have at the bedside. They're there. What do you think it takes?
First of all, it takes brains. They have to be competent, and they have to be compassionate. They have to really care about the person that they're in a one-on-one situation with, and they need to know how to usually operate within a bureaucracy. So lots of different skills are required to be successful.
They're very special people. Thank you, Ann.
Yes, thank you. And Steve, so are you.
Steve Adubato, we're here down in South Jersey. This is the New Jersey State Nurses Association EPIC Awards, and music playing behind us. The awards are about to be given out. And we're here with Dr. Bill Holzemer, who is the Dean of the Rutgers School of Nursing. Dean, let's talk about why these awards are so important and why nursing is so important.
Well, I think the awards give nursing a chance to thank all the many people who support us, who provide financial support, but also just emotional and support. It's extremely important in nursing because we are pervasive across the whole community. We're everywhere, and we affect everyone's lives at some point in their life.
Training the nurses of tomorrow changed dramatically?
Yes and no. More advanced practice nurses. Clearly, at Rutgers, we admit about 100 a year to our advanced practice program. These are nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, nurse anesthetists, family nurse practitioners, pediatric nurse practitioners.
More specialists.
Well, they do primary care, though, and they can take care of about 80% of the community's problems, and then we work with our physician colleagues for the other 20% of the care, that when they need referral and advanced diagnosis and things.
How are patients affected by nurses taking on more and more responsibility and interacting with patients in a different way?
The data, the evidence is overwhelming that patients love it. They love the attention, the time, the connection, the human touch. as well as the intellect and the guidance of how to manage the condition, how to work with their loved one who has some condition. They don't know what to do about it. So the data is just overwhelming. Quality is good, cost is good, satisfaction is extremely high. So it's very positive all the way around. And it allows the physicians to do the kind of specialty care they really want to do. So it's really a win-win situation.
You know, we are seen in many states, but we are based in New Jersey. So the question, Dean, is how does New Jersey rank or rate when it comes to what nurses are able to do and not able to do as it relates to treating patients?
At the advanced practice level, we rank in the bottom half of the states in the United States that give advanced practice nurses their full scope of practice, because it's still...
Translate full scope of practice.
Meaning physician supervision, signatory. Now that signature could be a physician who's on vacation in the shore and you're seeing someone in Newark at the federally qualified health center, but and most states have done away with that. And
that signature needed by the physician.
Right, but it takes statewide legal a change in the law.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Do you think New Jersey's going to get there?
I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I think as care changes, more and more, the need for primary care has become so great after Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, the number of people on insurance, and we don't have enough primary care providers. And part, not only, but part of the solution will be advanced practice nurses.
And ultimately, you think that means what for patients if this were to happen? The nurses had that authority.
It means access to care. It means quality care. It means consistent follow-up care. It means the things people want from primary care. It means they have access, and it's cost affordable, and it's quality care.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay, thank you, sir.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Investors Bank, the New Jersey Education Association, Verizon, Qualcare Inc., Johnson & Johnson, ShopRite Supermarkets, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Think this is absurd? Insurance fraud costs every New Jersey family over $1,300 every year. Report fraud at njinsurancefraud.org.